Fox News Alert with developments on our top story as the FBI obtains a warrant to look over more than 650,000 new emails found on devices that may have been used by Hillary Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin. There is new fallout about what could happen if Clinton does win the White House after all of this. Joining us now, Gregg Jarrett, Fox News anchor and former defense attorney. So the prospect of a sitting president being indicted, or perhaps being indicted before winning the presidency, is actually out there.
Yeah, it is out there. Probably not before, but after she were to take office, assuming she wins. And what's interesting is there is broad constitutional immunity against prosecution for ordinary crimes for any president. It's even in the Federalist Papers. The framers talked about that. What they didn't talk about, and legal scholars have never contemplated, is what happens. Does that immunity apply for acts that are committed before somebody assumes the office of president?
So if Hillary Clinton wins the presidency and somehow is indicted, and I know a lot of people are saying that's not going to happen, but if she somehow is indicted, she wouldn't face charges while she is president.
No, she wouldn't. She could invoke the immunity. Now, that might end up in a lawsuit, and judges, including the Supreme Court, might have to weigh in on it. She could pardon herself. You're allowed to pardon yourself. You can pardon anybody. Nixon thought about pardoning himself. In the end, he decided not to. Ford did it for him. But that would be political poison if Hillary Clinton were to do that.
So there's a lot of talk about the Hatch Act these days. Harry Reid is all upset about what he perceives to be Richard Comey, Director Comey's, James Comey's violation of the Hatch Act. What is it?
Well, the Hatch Act was a law passed in 1938, which says a public official, except president and vice president and a few others, cannot use their position to influence an election. Well, look, there's no Hatch Act violation here. There's no evidence that Comey intended to influence the election. Sure, his decision to announce this may have that effect, but he didn't intend to. By all appearances, he intended to simply correct the record before Congress, his sworn testimony in which he said the case was closed. Obviously, now it is no longer closed, and he was duty-bound to tell them that. But look, he was in a no-win position anyway. If he didn't disclose it, he'd be accused of violating the Hatch Act by protecting Hillary Clinton.
Right, and if the FBI had some information, developed some information that might bear on her fitness to hold the highest office in the land and didn't release it before the election, I mean, isn't it something that voters would have wanted to know?
Well, but that's more of a political judgment call. And Comey, the indication is, was simply looking at the law. I have information that Congress needs to know because I told them something that's no longer true, that the case is now open and active. And, you know, he must have seen something on Thursday when the feds showed him these documents that alarmed him and said, wow, now I've got to reopen this investigation. I have to tell Congress it's open.
Now, I know you've written on FoxNews.com about what happens if Hillary Clinton is elected. It doesn't appear that there's going to be a honeymoon period with Congress.
Right.
And, in fact, investigations into the email situation and other possibilities could start right away. Her husband was the second president ever impeached. Could she be impeached over this email?
You cannot be impeached for conduct that happened before you became president. Impeachment only applies to actions taken during the course and scope of your duties as president of the United States. But look, she could be, you know, dead in the water and disabled the same way Nixon was during Watergate. He squandered the trust and goodwill of the American people, could get nothing done with Congress in terms of meaningful legislation. There will be continuing investigations by Congress, assuming Republicans hold the House, into bribery, obstruction of justice, perjury, fraud, illegal use of a nonprofit charity, i.e. her foundation, pay for play. All of these are active investigations which the chairman of the various committees in Congress have vowed they will pursue and pursue vigorously.
And if memory serves, she was a young lawyer who served the committee, working the Democrats on the committee, impeaching
She
Richard
was.
Nixon.
And, you know, one wonders, did she learn nothing from the Nixon scandal, that power tends to corrupt and you have to sort of behave yourself? You know, most people who are enveloped by scandal learn from one scandal.
Yeah.
Clean up your act. Stay away from it. Hillary Clinton, it's one after another, whether it's Qatar Futures or Whitewater or Travelgate or emails or Benghazi, the list goes on and on and on. It is one after another.
The FBI director described it as what? Bad judgment. Very bad judgment in his remarkable news conference.
Assuming, John, that there are classified documents on these new emails that were sent or received by Hillary Clinton, that doesn't mean necessarily she'll be indicted or charged. The same result as before we could have yet again.
Gregg Jarrett, Fox News anchor and attorney. Greg, thank you.
Sure.